the planets literally speak through our body, if I have to concise it and explain it in layman's terms. And we can find harmony and wisdom through understanding these planetary placements within our own body and the distribution of the elements as well. So, some people might have like more fire and more air and less water. And these are people that need to balance that element in their body.
Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy Podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, J.N. Berenger, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kaylee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Dean Richards, and I am here with my amazing co-host and friend, J.N. Berenger. Say hello, J.N.
Hello.
Today, we are interviewing someone incredibly special who I just adore. Her name is Dr. Divya, and she is a visionary and vitality advisor for CEOs, business visionaries, and health professionals. She synthesizes the wisdom of medical astrology, human design, and nervous system energetics to help her clients prevent burnout and empower them to rise to their true potential by focusing on their ability to rebirth and transform in each moment by attuning to the seasons of life. She's a former dentist, a PhD, health promotion researcher who has had 15 years experience in the healthcare industry. She is on a mission to find synergy and unify the two worlds of science and spirituality. She believes in embodied wisdom over fabricated awareness and dreams of a world where everyone freely embodies the essence of their soul's truth and liberates their bodies from dis-ease. Hello, Divya. I'm so excited you're here.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here as well. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Divya and I met through some mutual friends, Helena Woods, who's also been on the podcast, and Vika, who we love. And we are just so excited to have you here just to see your beautiful smiling face. People don't know this about Divya, probably listening yet, but like she just smiles and she makes you smile. And every time she talks, she was like, hello, dear. Hello, honey. Hi. Like always so awesome. And she is just such a force to be reckoned with. So we are so lucky to have you. I would love to talk a little bit first about your specific story, specifically around menstrual health issues. And we touched on it a little bit, but could you tell everyone, like, what was your breaking point? That because, you didn't start out this way, you worked really hard, you got a PhD, you were a dentist, then you had your own health issues, which led you to medical astrology, which is like so way out there for someone who is a dentist. So can you talk a little bit about the menstruation issues and how you've navigated that using astrology?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I think growing up in an Indian family, you are very driven towards having a career that is safe and secure and accepted by the society. So your options are very limited. So it's like either a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. So even though I wanted to be a dancer, I think that was not 100% encouraged. So I ended up like choosing this pathway and did it obviously half-heartedly, not from my body's way of leading me into making the decisions, from my mind, and worked and moved to Australia and studied even more, did my PhD. And then it was 2020 when I was in Chiang Mai, Saturn return, when things started like fully crumbling. And the beautiful Saturn, Father Saturn, who empowers you in a way that you can't even fathom. But I think I'm grateful for that turning point in my life because it really showed me how my foundations were imbalanced and how it's not going to serve the next version or the next 30 years of my life that I'm like meant to. Being menorrhagia. So it's having such intense bleeds. It was right at the time during COVID. So again, like going and seeing a doctor in person was a nightmare, or getting into a specialist in a system like here was even more difficult. And the wait times were like 4 to 6 months. And every single person that I went to would like just give me a Band-Aid solution, like, hey, take this hormone or take this pill or take this device and you'll be fine. But like nothing would fix it. Like I would still bleed through, lost so much blood to the point where they had to transfuse iron and blood, and I had to have like surgery to figure out like what was happening actually, if there's something else that's like internally causing this bleeding. And there was nothing, like they still couldn't figure out what was happening. And this is when I really leaned into unconventional medicine, like alternative medicine, like naturopathy and like Ayurvedic. But even then, like, to get that perfect formulation was a bit of a time. Like I would probably get like a few months of like no issues, and then it would come back again, like in the same intensity. So I wasn't able to find the exact answers as to why this was happening. And that's when I was already studying astrology and human design. I was experimenting. I learned that I was a projector in human design, which was such a game changer. And I think this could have been a part of like the whole deconditioning journey as well, like learning that I have an undefined sacral energy. And my entire life, I amplified all of that sacral energy around me without knowing when enough is enough. And I basically burned my reproductive organs to a point where it was screaming and desperate for my attention. And that's when I started sitting with my body and actually introspecting and talking to it. And I found the world of medical astrology, and I could literally see in the chart I learned as to why this was happening, because the nodes were transiting through my house of health, and the south node was in Scorpio then. Oh my goodness. The Scorpio rules reproductive organs, your blood, detoxification pathways, elimination of toxins, inherited genetic diseases passed on from the ancestral line. So much was unveiled to me through that study. I learned that my moon and Saturn, the conjunction of that was wherever Saturn is, he restricts that part of that body, right? Like he limits the function. He cools that part of the body as well. So if he's next to a planet or a celestial body, he like takes over, like he, plunges his patterns onto that particular planet or body. So the moon and Saturn conjunct, basically my womb was cold, and the hormones were off, and I have a moon Saturn square my Venus in the 6th house of health, which is again the rulership of balancing of hormones and reproductive organs. So the answers were all there, and the south node was like right there as well. So this was a purification that I could not stop. But no matter of the intensity of it, I still felt so alive in my soul. And I think that was like the turning point for me, where I was like, there is more to it, what you learn in the system, in the conventional way of studies. And you never looked at the body in this fashion. Like you never looked at the body like in a holistic way. You never could see that there is a story beyond the story. And I started exploring my ancestral pathways, and I learned that so many of the women and my cousins in my family, including my own grandmother, suffered from menstrual issues and prolonged bleeding, to the point where the only solution that they were given was a hysterectomy. Just get rid of the organ and you'll be fine. And I just had to walk out of so many doctors' clinics because of that was the only suggestion, and they couldn't like help me. Or it was just like, let's just like put a stop to it. And no, I said, I want to harmonize. I want to be a woman. I want to feel the cycle every month. I don't want to like stop it from, completely, and because I just don't believe in that. I think that was, all of those experiences just opened this completely new way of looking at my body and communing with it. And I think this is the intersection. We are at such a tipping point right now in the collective, because so many people, like the collective is unwell. And we are recognizing that the answers are not just going to be found through one pathway, that we need to synergize our way of living. And I guess that's how this whole mission of bringing forth synergistic living and that medicine to the world came through me. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I have to just note, like, the first time I had heard you say, like, people were just suggesting a hysterectomy, it just, like, hurts my heart so much. Jayan and I are both science nerds. We love it. We both worked in research, and we've both worked with the medical sphere. And it is so interesting that for women, it is always, the answer for, like, hormonal problems are either, like, take birth control or, like, let's cut your organ out. Like, those are literally the two tools that are so often used for women is let's either just get rid of your organs, your vital organs, or let's just, mess with your cycle and give you something for your hormones. And so I think it's beautiful that you found another way to do that and working in such a different way with, astrology. And people don't usually think about that. Is there anything you want to add to that, Jayan?
No, this is really great. And I think the work you're doing is just super important. And I'm looking forward so much to hearing what else you have to say about all of these things. I did want to ask you, just for our audiences, like, we like to orient everybody a little bit on different personalities. So can you just share with everyone your sun, moon, and rising so they can get a sense of what you're working with?
Yeah, definitely. So I am a Sagittarius sun, Aquarius moon, and a Gemini rising. And in human design, I'm a 1/4 splenic projector. So very Sag. I have a Sag stellium. So, but growing into my Gemini rising for sure.
I love it. I think it's hilarious because I have a Gemini sun and an Aquarius rising. So there's a lot of similarities. So cool.
I love that.
So I want to hear about some medical astrology. Can you just tell everybody what is medical astrology, just for somebody who doesn't know? And like, if they were like zeroed in on that story that you just told, and you're like, I'm here and I want to learn how to heal myself and I want to use the stars to help me understand my body better.
Yeah.
What would you tell them and how does it work?
So medical astrology is basically like, the interrelationship of the cosmological imprints of like the elements and the signs and the houses and the planets and the aspects and the transits. But you are looking at it from like the body's perspective. So each and every planet basically has its own function. It governs its own, types of organs in the body, and it creates this imprint on the day that we're born, right? So our soul's blueprint carries this information into our human body, and we commune with it every single day. It's just that many of us are unaware of it. And in the medical astrology field, this was actually, I think it was Hippocrates, and it was probably there since, I'm just going to get the exact dates, probably around 460 to 370 BCE, we've had medical astrology, but it was actually stopped after a point once the traditional medical degrees started coming out, because they didn't want to mix something that was alternative philosophy into the conventional way of studies. But back in the day, doctors did have to do a subject on astrology, especially medical astrology, in order to be qualified as physicians. Like, that is something else, and which was stopped for forever. And I'm hoping that with the age of Aquarius and the shifts that we're experiencing right now, that it returns and the holistic way of living comes back. But the planets literally speak through our body, if I have to concise it and explain it in layman's terms. And we can find harmony and wisdom through understanding these planetary placements within our own body and the distribution of the elements as well. So, some people might have like more fire and more air and less water. And these are people that need to balance that element in their body. So it's almost like the body comes with this specific codes as to even how the diseases and illness is present. It is like an initiation of the soul. It is a path of like aligning you deeper to your soul's purpose. So the answers are always there. It's like nothing to fear. But I think medical astrology is such a beautiful stream of astrology, which is going to like help us commune with the body in a way where we haven't before. And it's going to actually help us fall in love with our bodies even deeper.
Yeah.
Hey friends, it's Julie. I'm just popping in here real quick to tell you about a very special invitation we have for you. If you have been feeling deeply called to learn more about your feminine identity or to see what feminine power really is, or you're just loving the podcast, then Kaylee and I would love to invite you to join our community, Feminine Alchemist. Inside, we host live monthly women's circles, challenges, and Wheel of the Year celebrations. They are seriously so much fun. We have monthly workshops where we bring in experts to teach on anything from menstruation to mythology. You'll also get access to our library of courses about astrology, intuition techniques, sacred embodiment, and cyclical living. And most importantly, you'll be able to connect with women who are like-hearted and walking the same path as you. So if this sounds exciting to you, join today by clicking the link in the show notes or going to femininealchemist.com. That's alchemist spelled M-Y-S-T. Okay, back to the episode.
I love that. I think it's wonderful. And you talked about balancing. So if I were to summarize what you said, you know, we're looking at, when we do medical astrology, we're looking at our chart, like our natal chart and the transits and things through the lens of the body. And it's the imprint on us. And by looking at our natal chart and by balancing the elements. So for people who may not know, I think most people who listen, because we've explained a lot of astrology things, know a little bit, but every sign has an element, either fire, water, air, or earth. And so what Divya is talking about is like balancing those elements in each of us, and each of those elements have a quality to them and something that they do. And so we're trying to learn and balance those. So I have a question with that. Like for someone like me who has like my sun and my moon are opposite of each other. So I've got a Cancer sun and a Capricorn moon. How might somebody balance something like that in their body, those oppositions?
Yeah, so so you have a Capricorn moon, so it's an earth moon. So straight away when we look at like the earth moon, which house is it in? Do you know? The house?
So my and I'll just share so you can see, but I've got a third house moon and a ninth house sun.
The third house moon and a ninth house sun. Yeah. So with the Capricorn moon in the third house, so we have to look at the, moon in the environment that it resides in, right? So straight away when we look at the element behind the Capricorn moon, you are looking at structural frameworks of the body. You are looking at how the body maintains and repairs the bodily tissues. You are looking at like survival mechanism. And for someone with an earth moon, it's very important that there is a focus on like growth and like proper distribution of like resources within the body, right? Like, so communioning with the earth is going to be very important. And a Capricorn moon, because it has such a strong willed fashion of like wanting to climb that mountain and like take the next step and always see something forward. You have to think about it from like the emotional alchemical purpose. Like this is someone that's going to, you're someone who's going to think about your emotions from a very linear perspective. Like you probably like to organize and make time for it and compartmentalize and really take the time to look into it as well. But there are people who might do the opposite as well and not look at it and like suppress it within the structures of their body, which can show up as burnout. So these imbalances in like an earth moon can, you can assess it in the form of like people's food habits, their work style, their nervous system load at the moment. It can show up as like skin eruptions as well, bone and cartilage pain. And when someone is not connected to that moon, that earth moon, they can feel very ungrounded and disconnected from their physical body and also feel a bit like out of place in the world. So the beauty of connecting to that moon in opposition, did you say it's opposing your, I'm just looking at your,
yeah, it's not a true opposition. It's 12 degrees. I have a 12 degrees Cancer sun, and then if you can see on the screen, 24 degree Capricorn.
Yeah. So the Cancer Capricorn axis is another interesting axis, right? So we have to look at it from that fashion as well, because if we're trying to balance like the sun and moon, the sun part of our body is connected to our vitality, our creative life force. It is the one that's basically bringing that life force back into our body. And as someone with a Cancer sun, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So this is, again, there is so much that you are going to process in this life from a very emotional perspective, right? So it's going to come from like the origin, the ancestral stories. It's going to come from like those parts of the body ruled by the Cancer as well. So which is the breast and all the hollow organs in the body, your stomach, your womb space. Like those are the things that are going to be like pivotal for you to like connect to. And even though if it's like not in an exact opposition, but if it's in the same axis, you want to look at it from that modal perspective. Something that's going to be an important theme for you in your entire life is regulation, creating structure, and like exploring your protective mechanisms, right? So the Cancerian part of you is like extremely protective about like your origins and your family, your home, your space, your body as well. And the Capricorn part of you really wants to like stretch beyond and like climb the impossible as well. So it's about finding that balance between like your inner and outer body surfaces as well, without overloading your endocrine systems, without overloading like your structural frameworks, without overloading like the fluids that's in the body as well, because Cancer governs like fluids. So I would love to ask, like, have you experienced any of these imbalances when it comes to like when you go through like an intense emotional period, like flare-ups with like a lot of fluids, like mucous membranes, like flaring up, and issues around the womb space, heart, and all of that?
It's actually my stomach. My stomach has always been my difficulty. So for me, I feel like all my stress and my anxiety in my stomach. I had an ulcer as a kid, but I was able to, like a stress ulcer.
Yeah.
But I was able to heal that in my 20s, like using food. But I do see now that you when you said the skin, because I was like, I know Capricorn is going to be over the bones and the sinews and things like that. I have had sometimes I have pretty clear skin, but when my skin does flare up, I am like, oh, there must be some emotional, like there is some emotional issue happening because my skin is having a tough time. I have had back issues, like as far as bones, I do have a crick in my back, like a 12 degree, like scoliosis, or not 12 degrees, sorry, 19-degree curve. So maybe that is also the way the bone comes out.
Which part of the body is the curve at?
Well, it's up by my shoulders, right? So by the breast area. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like that is that, compression of that structure over there, like taking over too many responsibilities than you potentially can, like, giving more than you actually are receiving, taking responsibility for other people's stuff as well, right? So you're processing other people's like emotional weight for them unconsciously. It is such a common thing that I see with like water signs, right? So because they have such a deeper relationship with the emotional and the water element in itself and the consciousness itself, for them, the intensity with which they experience and the way in which they take in other people's energy is much faster compared to the other signs. So if you have a lot of like water placements, that's something that you have to really be mindful of, is having very strong energetic boundaries and literal physical boundaries as well, because that can destabilize your nervous system at such a fast rate, right? Like it crumbles you from the inside out. And for some, it might be like a slow burn, but for a water sign and anyone with the water stellium, it's very quick because it retains the memory in that water consciousness. And then it starts with this whole inflammatory cascade of inflammation that follows afterwards. And yeah, so I think the story with that Cancer Capricorn axis for you with the 9th house and the 3rd house is the 3rd house, the environment with which the moon sits in is also really connected to your neighborhood. It's connected to your siblings. It's connected to your early childhood. And the 3rd house is ruled by Gemini, who's the messenger, who's directly governs the communication between the different organ systems in the body, as well as our nervous system. So the imprints are left hanging in the autonomic nervous system. So even if you have long forgotten something that's happened to you emotionally, if you haven't taken the time to fully process it and ask for help and actually get it out of your system, that imprint re-triggers that memory for you very quickly. And it almost feels like your body needs to unconsciously fight and go for that climb again. It's like, I thought I already did this, but like, I need to, fight this again. So the Capricorn moon can unconsciously choose its battles, right? So you need to be conscious when you pick your battles and only pick the ones that your body has the capacity for and to move through and to be held. Like it can find it very difficult to ask for help. Though your Cancer sun is like, I'll hold space for everyone. I will, create the harmony and I will stretch my capacity and hold everyone closer to my heart. Even if I am like not, at a gut level, at like a stomach level, you're not like feeling okay, you will still hold everybody's weight just so that you can create that heart in them. But, the Capricorn moon can really sometimes create that internal fight within you, and you end up creating suffering instead of actually struggling towards like a higher purpose. So yeah, that's wow. A bit of a, and because I'm looking at the conjunction with your moon next to Uranus as well, this might have happened in a very seasonal fashion. It might be like sudden spasms in the stomach, like sudden spasms in the structures of the body, like cramping and like just a sudden nervous breakdown, like out of the blue, but you can't really pinpoint as to why you're experiencing that.
As a kid, when I was younger, because this is all happening in the 3rd house, I did have sudden things that would happen, right? Like I would have sudden, I just don't feel okay, but I would have like sudden intestinal issues, diarrhea, things like that would come out of the blue. But I never had, I think my stress ulcer was like me retaining and never letting myself have a breakdown, like I can't do the breakdown. Like I don't do breakdowns kind of a thing. Now that I am older, I have had to process a lot of the emotional pieces and work with that. And so it's very fascinating to see it in my chart. And cramping, I always have had, like I had big cramps as a kid, always, and things like that. So yes, that is still a thing for me. But I do want to, I don't want to take over the time and like make it about my chart. I would love to also take a look at like somebody like Jayan, because we've talked about earth and we've talked about water, and Jayan is a Cancer moon, but she has a lot of air energy, that Gemini energy we were talking about. This is her chart. And I was wondering, so if water is all about like holding so much, and like the earth holds on to a lot and has that like upward, I know Capricorn particularly has that kind of like upward, let's get going, grounded feel and needs to be grounded. What do you do about air and fire, like that kind of access?
Yeah, so the air element and the relationship to the body, it obviously rules the third house, the seventh house, and the 11th house. So it's Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. And the air element basically governs anything to do with movement in the body, right? So anything to do with like communication within the body, anything to do with bringing forth homeostasis in the body. So if you look at it, it governs all the bodily movements from like the brain, and it regulates your nervous system and brings forth that homeostasis as well. And it's also connected to mental health and the electrical nervous system on the whole. And the underlying, like the baseline of the air element and the air signs and the air houses is connection. So if you notice any imbalances in these signs and elements and houses, it's assessed through someone's mental activity, like their mental stimulation, their mental faculties in the body. It's related to their movements. It's related to the digestion that happens. You know, if you think about like the process of digestion in itself, like you need a plethora of activities to happen in the body in order for digestion to take place. And then it's also related to the environment. It's related to respiratory health. It's related to appearance. It also connects to someone's sensitivity profile also, which is what I like to call it. And if someone has that lack of air element, which means this is going to be someone who is less attuned to their nervous system, right? So they probably get emotionally overwhelmed very quickly. They get bloated very quickly. They feel very confused most of the time. They can get dehydrated very quickly. And if someone has like excess of air, they are someone who probably lives in their head more and is probably making a lot of mental decisions, right? So there's an overload of that as well. So these people are usually the ones who struggle with like insomnia. They might have excess gas in the body as well. And it's almost like they do not feel safe to rest as well. So those are a bit on the air. And with the fire, you're really looking at Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And the fire is really connected to our body's internal heat. It's the body's internal combustion process, right? So again, you also need a bit of fire for the digestive process. So it governs digestion, vitality, and the fire signs also govern our immune system in a way, and our body temperature, right? So our body needs to be at the right temperature and the pH balance and everything in order for us to function. So when the fire is imbalanced in the body, that can really show up in our skin. It can show up in our, urine. It can show up in the way in which we digest food. So like diarrhea, constipation, and all of those things as well. The way in which we like process our emotions, and also the way in which we combat our illnesses, right? Like you need a good level of fire in your body in order to like bounce back from illnesses as well. So anyone who does not have a lot of fire element, these are people who can be very susceptible to disease. Like they get, if there's something going around in the environment, they're the first to get it. Or, they can have like digestive issues. They can have lack of like motivation, lack of spirit. If they have excess of it, they can probably have inflammation, hyperacidity. They can also experience like burnout, like lots of anger, irritability, aggression, restlessness on the whole, right? So looking at Jane's chart, she has a Gemini sun. And where's the moon? The moon's in Cancer in the 6th house, and she has a Aquarius rising. So she has almost like, if you look at the big three, the 2 is in air sign, right? So this is someone who processes a lot mentally, right? So there's a lot of mental stimulation that's coming through. So it's very important for her to make sure that she is synthesizing the amount of information that's coming into her head with the rest of the body. It's almost like that communication needs to happen. Otherwise, the rest of the body might start to scream for attention. So as a Cancer moon, she's again like very sensitive to her environment. So she can pick up things from her environment much more compared to like another person, right? So if someone's going through, say, like an intense emotional experience or a crisis, she can act as an emotional sponge in that situation. So it's very important for her to come back into her own space and make sure that she discharges from that energy as well. Otherwise, it's going to show up in the hollow, round organs ruled by Cancer, as well as emotions as well in our fluids. As a Gemini sun, this is someone who also needs to take extra care of her nervous system, right? So the environment plays a whole huge role with air signs, I've noticed. It's like if they are not breathing the fresh quality air, and if they are not in an environment that energizes them, they get drained very quickly. They get restless very quickly. They feel ungrounded very quickly as well. So they need to like lean in to the earth element to ground all of that air activity in the body as well. So yeah, so with that whole axis, the main thing that we're looking for is with the Gemini Sagittarius, it's immutable, and the nodes are now moving into Virgo and Pisces as well. It's very connected to the body and the soul. It's very connected to like the mind and the movement, right? So this is someone that needs to be thinking about like, okay, are the metabolic functions in my body okay? Am I moving okay? Is there part of my body that is like not flexible? Is the part of my body like, like feeling very contracted and feeling very stiff, right? Like, and how is the health of my subconscious mind, and how is the health of my mind? How am I talking to my body, and what am I thinking about my body? Because those end up becoming like the physical manifestations for a lot of air signs. It's like how they think about their body. Mind is like their biggest healer. So if they have any health issues, the one thing that I tell my air sign clients is like, just think about what you would want to say to your body with like the utmost love if you were its mother, and then start, treating the illness from that fashion. And before you know it, like miraculous things happens, right? Like literally within a couple of days, they're fine. And this has happened to me too. So yeah, so, for her as a Gemini sun, really connecting to those body parts, so which is her shoulders, her arms and length, and bringing forth that level of movement. And that could be through dancing, through walking, like through even like gentle light movements in the air. Like all of that is going to help her move the energy that she has unconsciously like picked up as well. So yeah, the Aquarius rising loves to be a part of the community, right? So even doing things like taking a Pilates class, or like, doing something with the community, like community workouts, like that's going to like energize her as well. And really focusing, like Aquarius also governs our mitochondrial health. Like, so really thinking about it from that perspective as well, it's going to strengthen her faculties on the whole.
It's so interesting because everything you said is true. And I expected that, right? But like, it's different when it's you, right? And the funniest thing is like one of my biggest like cornerstones of my business and why I do what I do is because I changed my beliefs. My beliefs changed my body. You literally said that's the key to everything. So that's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Hey friends, it's Jayan here. If you have been feeling really stressed out about the world lately, you are not alone. There's been enough crazy and fear flying around the internet that even I've been knocked off my rocker sometimes. But it's times like these that I'm really grateful for the tools I have to regulate my nervous system. I developed these tools for myself when I was going through the thick of it. My babies were young and I had a ton of repressed anger. And these tools helped me through other stressful times, including negotiating my own divorce, having difficult money conversations, and of course, the whole COVID experience. And I've put all these tools in a method I call the authentic self-care method. This is different than other self-care programs because it is a framework for you to find your special sauce when it comes to self-care. And let me tell you a secret. Step 1 is not take a bath, get a haircut, or go to the gym. Step 1 is regulate your nervous system. And that's exactly what we do inside the 3-in-1 membership. This powerful program includes focused journals and meditations you can do in just a few minutes, like the fight or flight session, the hippocampus session, which rewrites your ability to see new possibilities, and the vagus nerve session, which helps you regulate your whole body in a crisis. Using these tools, members have reported feeling more empowered, more expansive, and many experience relief from actual physical pain, all for less than $2 a day. So join the 3-in-1 membership now so you can learn these tools today. The world is not going to become less crazy. The only thing you can control is how you respond to it. The 3-in-1 membership will help you do that, so click the link in the show notes to enroll today. I want to talk about Mars and I want to talk about Venus. So can you tell us about Mars in a person's chart, anybody's chart? And then Mars in the sky now, like what are some things that people should be aware of and how does medical astrology work on a population scale? And then same thing with Venus or Venus first, whatever you want to pick.
Yeah. So Mars at the moment is retrograde, right? So Mars governs our internal heat, our capacity to, strengthen our defense mechanisms in the body. It governs our immune system. It also helps with our muscular system, our blood health. And the nature of Mars, if you think about it, it rules Aries and Scorpio. And it's naturally very hot, it's very dry, and it's very inflammatory. So when it is retrograde, what happens is the functions of Mars, of the planet, starts to internalize, right? So Mars doesn't really enjoy going retrograde, but it's absolutely, everybody goes through their seasons and so do the planets. So, it's like a necessary redirection for the planet so that it comes back to its optimal stage of functioning and so that it can function as it's supposed to, right? So it provides us the momentum and the drive to make things happen as well. So from that perspective, when we look at it, if it governs our inflammatory response, our capacity to manage our stress, our sexual health, like these are the things that we really want to look into during a period of Mars retrograde. And especially when it's retrograde in a sign like Cancer at the moment, this is really connected to those Cancerian parts of the body as well. So a lot of people might have, what I'm hearing at the moment and from clients and from people around me as well, is bringing forth any depositions of, toxins or waste or any other fluids or inflammatory cascade that's happening in the Cancer ruled body part. So like in the stomach, in the chest cavity, in the womb space, like a lot of people are having like changes to that, like changes to their emotional health. And all of those things are like coming out. So Mars basically gets things out of the system. And during a retrograde, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get it out of the system. So it might show up as like a congestion. And you're just having congestions in those certain parts of the body, right? So you might need help of certain medications or like herbs or whatever it is that you prefer to bring this congestion out of the body. that can really, what can it do to a person when you feel congested? You're consistently irritated. You can feel angry. You can feel flushed. You can feel dizzy. You can feel like anxious as well. And your stress levels are through the roof. So if your body is consistently in a higher cortisol state, you're not going to be able to heal and you're going to burn out very quickly. So it's just about noticing and becoming aware. All right, so this particular planet governs all these functions. It's retrograde at the moment. If it is showing up in my body right now, what can I do to somatically integrate it, right? Like just becoming very present. Like, have I not been resting enough? Asking that question to yourself. Like, have I not been hydrating myself enough? Have I not been somatically integrating like the things that have happened in my life in the last few months? Or like when Mars is in Cancer, did it bring up any specific themes that your body is processing for you? So just really looking into it. And sometimes it can feel like, you are probably going through a bit of like a crisis and chaos altogether at the same time with the Marsian thing, because Mars always wants to fight, right? So he also fights to keep us healthy. And sometimes, again, we can internalize that fight and we can get stuck in this pulse of always feeling like we are in crisis, like, something is in danger. But it's about just restoring that faith and just be like, okay, if I am not well right now, and if I've reached a point of exhaustion, and if my body is screaming for my attention, let me truly sit with it. Let me explore the resources that are around me and do what's the best that I can. Mars loves to take action. So even if you're going to take one step forward with your health, like that is going to restore your body's natural rhythm in its own fashion without triggering your internal alarm. So it's about cultivating that sense of acceptance, bringing forth a level of warmth and tuning into your inner warrior, without self-attacking it, but like nurturing it and protecting it and supporting the body at the same time. So I think this is going to be such a transformative year as well for the collective, because it is a Mars ruled year. So, we are going to see a lot of Marsian themes in the collective as well. So a lot of people are completing cycles. They're looking at like the last 9 years that they've had. And from a medical astrology and a body perspective, this is, an invitation for all of us like collective to see like how have we been caring for our bodies, and do we feel sufficient with the ways in which we've been caring for our bodies? Like, is there anything else that we can do? And do we need to change our routine? Do we need to change the way in which we take action? Do we need to learn to advocate for our health better? Because again, that's also a Mars aspect. Mars really goes and not like literally go fight with your practitioners, but I'm just saying, like, are you equipped with the knowledge and, the I guess like the story behind why certain things might be happening, and looking at it from that holistic, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, way of like approaching the body, like in all of those 4 phases. Are you exploring things in like that holistic fashion? And then are you able to articulate with that with your practitioner? And is that someone who's actually holding space for you? Really exploring all of those things, right? Like, or is this someone who's just like giving you something temporarily and you are able to manage it, but then it comes back again, like in a much more brutal fashion? So I think we're going to really notice all of that in this next few months, and people are going to really take charge of doing it their own way, which I'm very excited for, especially when it comes to the health.
Can you, because I know that we're going to get this question and I want to head it off at the pass. What do you mean? Can you go into more detail when you say a Mars ruled year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
so
how is that calculated?
Yeah. So 2025, when you add it all up, it's a 9-year. And this is actually not in Western astrology, but in Vedic astrology and from the culture that I come. Every year is connected to a planet, so I like to look at it from that perspective as well. I actually, studied tropical astrology and practice in tropical astrology as well. But I do love getting readings from like different types of astrology, because I feel like they all give us a lens of maybe our different parallel lives, who knows? But I'm always like excited to see, oh, there's another version of Divya. There's another version of Divya. So I'm like, well, tell me more. So from a Vedic astrology lens, 2024 was a Saturn ruled year. And so it was very, related to our foundations, and we were very disciplined, and we really had to learn to take back our power. We had to go through a bit of like, I wouldn't say like extensive struggle, but like obstacles so that we can really change the course in which we do things. And 9 is ruled by Mars. So Mars, is, in order for us to have like good momentum and drive and ambition, we really need to go back and explore where we are getting that drive from the first place, right? Is this drive a healthy drive? Is it a good quality life force energy that you're churning within your body, which is actually coming from like the highest level of soul that's taking you in that direction towards your higher purpose? Or is this a life force energy that you've picked up from your environment or from people around you in order to prove something to someone? And are you unconsciously exhausting yourself? Are you unconsciously doing all these things and trying to, prove your worthiness by like, just jeopardizing your health? So this is the time that, this is the year where we're going to reflect on all of those things. Like, are these truly my desires? Because Mars is again like desires, right? So, or is this someone else's desire that I've like, made it my desire because it just looks cool?
So wonderful. My gosh. These are the big questions, I think. And I think that this is probably going to be another questioning of the hustle culture and like this competitive, I'm hurting myself more to get the most productivity out of, better productivity than everybody else. And the question's going to become like, to what end? Like, why? Why do you care about that? And what is it that's important? Why do you care about anything? What do you really want? I love this. I'm so excited for this, for everyone. Yeah. This conversation with Dr. Divya was so wonderful and so profound. And I wanted to point you in the direction of where to find her if you wanted to look to work with her directly. So you can definitely find her on Instagram. She's Dr. Divya.divine. Divya.divine. She has some really amazing courses available. She has one-to-one astrology, but she also has an 8-week group program. And she is just a wealth of wisdom about the physical body and how it interacts with astrology. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and connect with her if you feel like it's divinely directed. Have a great week, guys. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening and share with someone you know. See you next week.